Welcome everyone to Clarky's Closet, a podcast. And today we look at my fourth musical comedy, Songs from the Bunker. A story about Hitler's doppelgänger, when the walls were about to come down on the bunker. The joyous tale of the demise of Adolf and Eva and their dog Blondie. Well, actually, I won't tell you too much just now, but there's a twist, a big reveal. And if you go to markclark.com.au, you might actually see that reveal. They're all 7 or 8 minutes of it. I'm not going to tell you right now what it was. I'll let you know when it's coming. Okay, this was put on in 1998, written the year before, as was my custom in the days when I was working at Windsor High School and writing these plays. Took quite a while because I had to write all of the songs, obviously, and then I had to record everything, and I did all of that myself. But Jessica Zamprogno provided the female vocals for me, one of my ex-students. Lovely voice, which you will hear in this podcast. But all of the songs I've chosen for you today are really just ones that I like. I think I've chosen about half a dozen songs. The show should go about half an hour as it normally does. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy this. The idea came to me that I could write a play taking the mickey out of Hitler, which is always good fun and always a pretty easy target, I guess, isn't it? He certainly looked like something, and he certainly made a few waves in world history. I noticed that he's called great occasionally, and I guess he was in terms of history, but he certainly wasn't a very nice guy. Well, he loved his dog until he poisoned it. Anyway, that aside, let me tell you a little bit about Songs from the Bunker. I originally had the idea of having Hitler on stage for a couple of hours, and I thought, well, we don't want to be looking at swastikas. Nobody wants to be watching Hitler on stage. And then one night, when I was in a Friday night frame of mind, if you know what I mean, I suddenly had it. It was Hitler's doppelganger. It wasn't Hitler at all. And instead of swastikas, we had little smileys with the Ghostbusters little line through them, you know. And, everyone was in there, even the Nazis who weren't in there. I don't think Himmler was, but he's in the show. So that tells you what sort of a show this is. And it's really, it was actually inspired by the producers, written by Mel Brooks, of course, which won the Oscar in 1970 for Best Picture. I think I'm right in saying. It certainly won the Oscar. And, that gave me the idea, and I thought, let's do something around Hitler. That'd be fun. So I made it in April 31, 1945, when the Ruskies are about to beat down the door to the bunker, and Hitler's double is put in to take the fall for the big guy. And his 2 astrologers are with him, dressed as astrologers, as you can imagine, and the 3 of them are Jewish. It's not mentioned in the entire play that they are Jewish, but they're from New York and they talk like this. And they're panicking, of course, because everybody's out to get them. So our first song, the one that I'm going to play for you first, is the opening song. If you can imagine, sitting in the audience, curtains pull back, and what do they reveal? But who we think is Adolf Hitler singing you this next song, which is Oi, Weh, Oi, Warte Day! Oi, what a day, oi, what a day I am having. Oi, oi, such a day have I had. First Herman tells me we're losing the war. I said, losing the war? Could we call it a draw? Next Heinrich says there's a man at the door selling autographed pictures of Winston Churchill. Oi, what a day, what a day I am having. Oi, such a day have I had. My astrologers tell me that I should stay in. Of course I'll stay in. They are bombing Berlin. One of them said avoid poison today and don't plan a vacation. For this they get paid. Oi, what a day I am having.
Oi, weh, oi, such a day, oi, such a day have I had. Eva tells me she's tired of living in sin, with the ways of always been, who's had time for sin? So Joseph, I got him to buy me a ring. It cost 200 Deutschmarks plus tax, my life, and what a day I am having. Oi, such a day have I had. Goebbels' 6 daughters are lazy and rude. His wife is too. Tell me, what should I do? Between them and Goering, they're eating the food and they're drinking the schnapps. Enough already, what a day I am having. Listen, such a day have I had. My generals want a new powerful bomb, but the bombs that they ask for would weigh kilotons. My scientists tell me they can't split the atom. Einstein said it come, but his wife won't let him. What a day I am having. Listen, such a day have I had.
So that was rather an incongruous start, I thought. And then, of course, he explains that there's not an ounce of Schicklgruber in him. He is not Hitler, and he tells the story about how he and his 2 brothers were in a hot air balloon when they blew onto Gestapo headquarters and were put in cold storage in case one day the Nazis were losing the war, which, of course, they are now. I saw a show about the bunker. I imagined a bunker, as probably most people do, as just dirt walls with, planks holding them up. But of course I was completely wrong about that. This SBS show, this show about the bunker, showed it to be multi-levelled and very sophisticated with plenty of food and grog and what have you. It sort of seemed like the Nazis were having a party, a Nazi party, you might call it, boom boom, which is one of the gags from the show. Goering was on. He's not in the show. I wish I'd known this at the time, but Goering was actually into heroin, morphine. So he'd be at the party meetings basically zonked out. Hitler was on ice pretty well. He was on the heavy stuff, and people think that's maybe why he went crazy rather than because he was losing the war. Maybe he just went nuts because he was on bloody high levels of ephedrine or whatever he was on. You can imagine what those meetings were like, can't you? Anyway, that aside, let's talk about the show. Well, the next thing we do, once we know what's going on in the story, is we meet the guards and the daughters, who of course become our chorus. And the daughters, I didn't name them for their real names, but I did see them on this show that was very, very sad, actually. This is what you call black comedy, I guess, because all of the girls, all 6 of them, Goebbels had poisoned them all, and there they were, dead, poor little things. So I thought, well, there's my chorus. And much the same as Mel Brooks goes, that's our Hitler in the movie, The Producers. And so I had my chorus. I had 6 SS guards, and I had 6 of Goebbels' daughters, and they come in and they sing this song to introduce their characters. It's called Guards and Daughters.
I was conceived in 23 the year mein Kampf was written. I read that book when I was 10 and mit it I was smitten. I joined the Hitler Youth the year they burned on German books. And with the big thick Heil in 39 invaded Poland's borders. Now 6 years on I'm underground with 6 of Goebbels' daughters. With the big thick Heil in 39 invaded Poland's borders. For we are Hitler's SS guards.
Und we are Goebbels' daughters. I was born for Lebensraum, my father told me so. And other folk must bear the yoke of Deutschland as she grows. I cheat the German troops as they obliterated foes. I'm with the big Sieg Heil, lit in style, all throughout the voyage und flirtet mit the assets vor einem Fun of Goebbels' daughters.
Mr. Big Sig Heil lived in style all throughout the voyage, for we are Hitler's SS girls.
Und wie a Goebbels' daughters.
But things aren't going quite as well as I had hoped they would.
In fact, to be quite honest, things aren't looking all that good.
The Allied tanks are pushing at the outskirts of Berlin.
Und if they win, they will barge in and there will be no quarter
For any of the SS girls.
on all of Goebbels' daughters.
And if they win, they will barge in and there will be no quarter for any of the SS girls.
On all of Goebbels' daughters.
Well, we've enjoyed the trimmings and the fame of all the Warsaw.
Sometimes in life it's better if one travels incognito.
So if at last it comes to pass, the Allies win the war.
Mit a great big smile, no sig how
We were just obeying orders, and we ain't Hitler's SS girls.
Und we ain't Goebbels' daughters.
So just in case there's video and later they report us, we ain't Hitler's SS girls.
Und we ain't Goebbels' daughters.
Yes, and much hilarity is had at the expense of the Nazis. It's not exactly what you'd call real life. There's an Australian Nazi in there, and everybody thinks he's Austrian, which is the odd thing. Americans often. I was in America at one stage back in 1984 when I was in my middle 20s, and the lady I was talking to in New Orleans, I told her I was Australian, and she pointed to a painting that she was doing, and it was snow everywhere. And she said, this must remind you of your home. And I didn't want to be rude, so I said, yeah, we have snowfields, but not a lot in Australia, let me tell you. Anyway, everyone thinks he's Austrian, but he's not Austrian, he's Australian, and he of course, causes trouble towards the end. But at this point in time, everyone's eating and drinking and carrying on, and Eva Braun and Hitler are getting on very well. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. One of the characters in the story was actually Hans, the paperboy from The Sound of Music, and every time anybody mentions one of the lines from The Sound of Music, he bursts into song. And of course, over a period of time, everybody gets sick and tired of him. So I just thought I'd better mention that. So anyway, by the end of Act 1, we have Goebbels, Himmler and Goering singing this next song to finish off the act, and it's called The Luftwaffe Rock.
Rock. We gonna do the Luftwaffe Rock. Man, we don't give a Messerschmitt for all that you got. We put the rumble in Tokyo, Axis on top. We gonna Stuttgart into Europe, gonna blitzkrieg till we drop. We gonna push step into Asia till our fans are gonna pop and do the Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna do the Luftwaffe Rock. Man, we don't give a Messerschmitt for all that you got. We'll do the Luftwaffe Rock. We ain't gonna pay no war reparations. Ain't gonna quite sit to the League of Nations. Ain't gonna sit here like a shag on a rock. We want an army and a navy and an air force to do the Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna do the Luftwaffe Rock. Now baby, we don't give a Messerschmitt for all that you got. We do the Luftwaffe Rock. Administration isn't big on reconciliation. Western Europe's going into liquidation. We sure you'll understand that when we crash your place, cause we need more space for the Aryan super race. Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna do the Luftwaffe Rock. We put the rumble in Tokyo, Axis on top and do the Luftwaffe Rock. Please don't feel you have to wait for an invitation. Let's all get together for some mass exterminations. 1,000 years like it is a happening. We got 995 more years to go to do the Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna do the Luftwaffe Rock. Now baby, we Fischer Schmidt for also check out. They put the rumble and look at your axis on top. We gonna stuka into Europe, gonna blitzkrieg till we top. We gonna goose step into Asia till our bands are gonna pop. Use it, Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna use it, Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna use it, Luftwaffe Rock. We gonna use it, Luftwaffe Rock.
The Luftwaffe Rock. Yes, this brings us to the beginning of Act 2, where Eva is sitting on a chair in the middle of the stage, surrounded at her feet by all of Goebbels' daughters, who are saying, tell us, Eva, how you met the Führer. And she does tell them in this next song, which is I feel a bit sorry for Jessica singing this, because it was such a high notes she has to hit, but she does it extremely well. And I think the song is reasonably funny. Hope you do too. This is called Deutschland Oh Deutschland.
Blossomed every spring, but often when I paused, I'd hear a voice upon the wind shouting,
Hitler is another, und don't listen to him. Deutschland, oh Deutschland, a voice upon the wind shouting, Hitler is another, und don't listen to him.
Teenage years I'd walk as young girls do, among the Alps beneath the sky of bold Bavarian blue, and frequently I'd fancy as I'd stop to tie my shoe, a voice cry,
Hitler is another, und die Nazis never stop. Deutschland, oh Deutschland, tell us what to do. Is another, und die Nazis not us too.
Und when I reached my 20s and my heart with love was filled for Hitler and for Germany, and all my dreams fulfilled at Berchtesgaden once, I'm sure I heard among the hills a voice cry,
Hitler is another, und he's going to get you killed. Deutschland, oh Deutschland, a voice among the hills crying, Hitler is another, und he's going to get you killed.
Deutschland, oh Deutschland, tell us what to do if Hitler is a nutter, and the Nazis nutters too.
But of course, Hitler is not really Hitler. His name is Epstein Pearl. To any of you who have ever had a little baby, you might know that they're the things that come up on their teeth. Epstein's pearls come up on not the teeth. They don't have teeth, do they? When they're first born, they'd bite you otherwise, and it would be very unpleasant if breastfeeding. But I digress. The Epstein's pearls, that's what they're called, those little pearl-like substances that grow on the gums of children. Just a little fact you can impress members of the opposite sex with when you're at parties. I don't suppose you know what an Epstein's Pearl is, do you? Anyway, his name's Epstein Pearl. He's got his two brothers, Jaime and Leon, the astrologers, and he's had his zoological nuptials with Eva by this stage. He's I think I'm right in saying that. He certainly goes off stage to have his nuptials with Eva prior to the Russians beating down the door and dragging him out to be sent down to the Nuremberg trials to be sported around like a trophy and ridiculed and then executed summarily. but he's getting worried by now, but his brother said, listen, don't worry. Look, maybe the Russians will like you. Maybe they admire you. I don't know. When they come here, there might be a party. And this song is called Better Buy Some Balloons.
Hitler, don't you worry, I really wouldn't worry what they'll do to you. They probably won't be in a hurry. The British may come and set you free, possibly stay for tea. Come on now, Hitler, don't be gloomy. We really can't presume what they will do to you. They'll probably be here pretty soon. The English and American troops probably all admire you. The Russians may throw a party with booze. Hey, better buy some balloons. Of course I could be wrong. They may come crashing down your door soon. You may be set upon by some violent and angry men, and they might tie you up, parade you around the streets of Berlin like a trophy cup. Then they'll take you down to Nuremberg for war ridicule. Hey, come on now, Hitler, don't you worry. I really wouldn't worry what they'll do to you. They'll probably be here pretty soon. The English and American troops, they probably all admire you. The Russians may throw a party with booze. Hey, better buy some balloons. Of course I could be wrong. They may come crashing down your door soon. You may be set upon some violent and angry men, and they might tie you up, parade you around the streets of Berlin like a trophy cup. Then they'll take you down to Nuremberg for war ridicule. Hey, come on now, Hitler, don't be gloomy. We really can't presume what they will do to you. They'll probably be here pretty soon. The English and American troops, they probably all admire you. The Russians may throw a party with booze. Hey, better buy some balloons. The English and American troops, they probably all admire you. The Russians may throw a party with booze. Hey, better buy some balloons. Better buy some balloons. Better buy some balloons. Of course I could be wrong. They'll be crashing down your door soon.
So at this stage, we've managed to gather everybody on stage. We're getting towards the end now, and this is the reveal, so close your ears if you don't want to know what happens. But it turns out that all of the Nazis that have been trying to get Hitler and eventually all hold a gun on him are not in fact Nazis at all, but they take all their gear off and reveal their underclothing, which is... They are the cast of The Sound of Music, of course. And one by one they introduce themselves and say who they were in that particular show. And he says, listen, you think I really am Hitler? And they say, who else would you be? To which he replies, well, just about anybody else right now. And they reveal themselves. And then he says, look, I'm not really Hitler. And they think, yeah, well, actually, he doesn't really sound like the Führer, etc., etc. And they realize that he is no longer Hitler and they can rejoice. And then they all sing a song at the end. Now, this last song I'm going to play for you today is called He Should Never Have Invaded Poland. My son went to Germany and was telling the German young men that, and they all thought it was bloody hilarious, which is a shame, not because they found it hilarious. It's a shame because the group through whom I put my music on Spotify and iTunes and all that sort of thing were not allowed to put this one up because apparently iTunes have got a policy, nothing to do with Hitler, even if it's satirical. So, alas, Songs from the Bunker is not up. But I have got 3 songs on my website, markclark.com.au, if you'd like to have a listen. And if you go to videos, you can see this reveal when everybody turns out to be from the cast of The Sound of Music, Windsor High School, 1998. So here we are with the final song, He Should Never Have Invaded Poland.
He should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake.
The Rhineland ended peacefully, and the Anschluss was okay.
The Sudetenland was well in hand.
Slovakia was great,
But he should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake.
The policy of appeasement was a godsend, that's for sure. Peace in our time was Chamberlain's line as I prepared for war. Who'd have thought those spineless fools would mobilize at all? I should have never have invaded Poland, just the Danzig corridor.
He should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake.
The Rhineland ended peacefully, the Anschluss was okay.
The Sudetenland was well in hand.
Slovakia was great,
But he should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake. At a meeting of our generals in 1938, you told us we would be at war before the new decade. We told you we weren't ready, but you said you couldn't wait. You should have never have invaded Poland. Well, not then at any rate. He should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake.
the Rhineland ended peacefully, the Anschluss was okay.
The Sudetenland was well in hand.
Slovakia was great,
But he should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake.
You should never have invaded Russia. The effort was too great. And helping Mussolini helped your forces dissipate. You should have never have declared a war upon the USA.
And you should never have invaded Poland.
That was your first mistake.
He should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake.
The Rhineland ended peacefully, the Anschluss was okay.
The Sudetenland was well in hand.
Slovakia was great.
But he should never have invaded Poland. That was his mistake. That was his mistake.
And that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Songs from the Bunker, incidentally, was the very first play to ever play at Windsor High School's new hall in 1998. The three prior shows, Pirates, Parrots and Penguins, Ponsonby's Castle and The God Show, and if you're interested in those and you missed those podcasts, you can go back and have a listen to those. They were played at the Richmond School of Arts out here in the Hawkesbury of New South Wales. Not far from Currajong if you need a reference point. Any of you people overseas that might be listening to this. It's in just out of Sydney, on the edge of Sydney, 70 or 80 k's out of Sydney. I live in Bowen Mountain, which is beautiful. We look across the whole Hawkesbury, which, as I speak, is threatened yet again by floods. So I hope everybody down there is well and gets through this fourth flood. Okay, everybody. Well, it's been great being with you. Next week is going to be show number 5, musical number 5, and that is Wayne Kerr High. We're going to take you to Wayne Kerr High. I'll tell you more about that next week. Until then, keep well. Bye-bye. If you'd like to have a listen to some other songs, and if you'd like to read some of my screenplays and some of my novels, and even have a listen to them, they're all on markclark.com.au. See you next time.